Well, welcome back to part 3 of the factory. And just to remind you, it's a 1/12 scale model of a working factory. The building is largely Victorian, and the era is sort of 1950s, 60s. Anyway, it's sort of all pre-health and safety. But I'm showing you this picture because I bought one of these. They're not very expensive actually, about 65 quid. Mini compressor, and the reason I bought one of those is because many years ago I used to use an airbrush and did motorcycle tanks, that sort of thing, you know, and spraying more small objects. And the big advantage of an airbrush, if you're not familiar with them, is it's like a very scaled down spray can, if you like, so you get incredible finish on things, particularly if you spray them with gloss and that sort of stuff. But I bought it mainly because I'm going to have to paint so much of this thing and so many objects, and it's not practical at that scale really to be using a paintbrush because you get paintbrush marks on everything, and I really want it to look as authentic as I possibly can. I've also been held up this week on the staircases, these. And these are key really to the whole project, because the staircase dictates the height of each floor in the factory. And I know in the real world that the factory floor would probably be about 12-20 foot high, but you know, this isn't the real world, so the ceilings won't be quite as high as that. They obviously need to be higher than the figures placed in it, but the stairs do dictate it, and they also dictate, depending on whether it's left or right-handed, where the staircase actually goes. They'll need staining down and darkening down and grubbing down, because they'll have been used many years, and the fronts of the steps will be worn accordingly. But what have I been doing in the meantime? I'll show you. I built one of these. It's a small wooden crate, actually to go in the engineering shop. This was made out of spills, which my sister-in-law, she loaned me a bag of those, so I could try. And it's just the right thickness for making crates. And this is actually going to go in the engineering shop under one of the benches. I shall put some other things. I shall print out some newspaper, small scale, screw it up, put bits and pieces in there. And other objects, I've got plenty of drawers full of miscellaneous items, you know, from other little small projects that I've worked on. So I shall put some of those in there and grub it down. Anyway, let's just take that out. But that's largely the construction. Obviously it was bright wood when I did it, but because it's been in an engineering shop and it's been there years, that's how it looks now. So yeah, so I've been making that, and sprayed down one of the cogs just to grub that up, so just to get an idea of what should be actually under one of the workbenches. The workbenches themselves I'm making out of these jumbo lollipop sticks, and although I'm very fortunate because my father used to make props for magic tricks. He was always fascinated by magic. I can't say he did that many shows, but I think he liked the mechanics of it. And I think with his sort of, because he had Asperger's to a lesser or larger degree, we were never quite sure, and we didn't really know until his final years, which was a bit of a shame, because had we known that, we'd have been able to deal with him a lot easier. But you know, the problem was, because we didn't know he had Asperger's, we just thought he was often being mean and grouchy and unpleasant, when he wasn't. He just, that's how he dealt with the world, and sentiment was not something he understood. But anyway, he had lots and lots of thin, small bits of wood that he used for these projects. And he got a little woodworking shed in at the back, which he hadn't used for a number of years. That was evident by the spider's webs in it, and the cobwebs. But there were lots of small bits of wood, which are good for the larger parts of the factory, but for the smaller bits, really you need just little bits of wood that you can cut with a craft knife, and these jumbo lollipop sticks are absolutely ideal for that. So, moving on, you might recognise this. This is the toolbox, I think from the second video. It's a little on the shiny side, but I've been grubbing that down making it look. I'll probably put some splits in it as well. But this, I've worked in engineering shops, and trust me, things do not stay clean very long. Yeah, so I've done that. But the thing with Doll's House furniture, especially the proprietary stuff, is it tends to be a little on the glossy side and not overly detailed, really. So, you know, some stuff I'm going to have to rework. It's worth buying some items. For instance, I decided early on I'd have some cats in this factory hidden away, 5 or 6 cats, and it would be good for kids because they can sit and look and see if they can find them all. So little things like that, they're not worth making. I can actually buy those in, they're pretty cheap. But like I say, stuff tends to be very glossy, so I've had to dull this down and oil stain it, that sort of stuff. I shall continue working on that. But right, on to the exciting bit. This is the airbrush. There we go, and there's an airbrush. If you've never seen one, if you're familiar with them, I don't want to tell you to suck eggs on this. I have actually got a Badger airbrush that I bought 30 years ago, but I think it probably needs new needles for it, because there's a needle that runs all the way through this, and they're pretty simple. Push down for air, and you pull back for paint. So you push down for air and bring back for your paint. That's an airbrush, and it's gravity fed, and you mix your paint roughly in a 50-50 kind of consistency. And with that, with the airbrush, because I've hooked this up to the compressor just to show you, I've got some slightly larger cups. If you were surprised, I don't think there'll be many times when I'd use that huge one, but who knows. And different size needles, different size heads for it, and a spanner to undo it, and a dropper, a pipette to pick up your paint with, mix it in. That's the airbrush. Not massively expensive, this one. There are a lot of cheap airbrushes around, I can tell you, and some of them aren't really up to much, but this was one of the better ones. I'll say it was 20 quid. A Badger airbrush, as I say, I do have one. I'll look those up. There aren't many under 150 quid, so you know that's kind of top end. So I will dig that out at some point and see if I can do anything with it. But that's the airbrush. As I say, for very fine detailed work, this is the thing you need. No, you're not really going to do it with a paintbrush. And the nice thing about the airbrush is it gives you those soft edges. You know, like I say, you can't get that any other way. Very subtle work with an airbrush. And I'll just give you a demonstration of the airbrush. I've got some, I think it's cadmium blue in there, and I've just laid a couple of A4 sheets, one on top of the other. But it'd be nice to have all this taped down, but just for demonstration purposes. You think there's nothing going on that paper, right? Yeah, there is actually. Right, you just get a very subtle line, or hold it down. Great for subtle blending, which I'm going to need to do, I think. So if you need something tiny resprayed and you live near me, well, you know to come to, don't you? And then you wash your airbrush out and then put in another colour. But great things. And just by, you know, this lever, how far you pull it back depends, because you put down for air, and how far you pull it back dictates how much paint comes out. You see? Fabulous, eh? That's the airbrush.